Hello and welcome to WePC Benchmarks. My name is Seb and today I will be taking you through the best settings for Psychonauts 2. The game has just recently come out and is made by Double Fine. It's a sequel to a well received and much enjoyable game that came out over 16 years ago. It's a great continuation of the original, but with a much needed refresh of graphics and some newer game elements that give us a greater experience playing it. You still play as Raz, now a Psychonaut intern, to keep exploring minds and trying to find the real mastermind behind the kidnapping of Truman, the head of the Psychonauts. So, how do you best extract a performance from the game? Well, we start off with our baseline of very high settings. We're using a GTX 1050 Ti for our tests, and at 1080p the card's still managing to get around 47 FPS average, with 41 FPS 1% and 34 0.1% average. What this tells us is that the game still runs pretty well on the highest settings, and doesn't stutter that much, and should be a pretty smooth experience. But that is not always the case. At higher resolutions, or if you have less powerful graphics, this will be lower, and so I'll take you through what I found to be the best settings for a good mix of performance and quality. The game does well with lower settings. There's not much visible difference between some settings, and yet they net us some performance increase. We start off with resolution scaling. We keep this at 100 as we want to keep the game running at 1080p. Next we have anti-aliasing, and we'll turn this down to FXAA, as it gives us a couple more FPS improvement, but with not much difference. Then we have detail distance. This seems to affect the detail of objects and how well they're rendered. When put on lower, it seems to make objects more jagged and less refined, so we'll just turn this down to high. The next setting option is for textures. This would seem to affect the textures of objects, but honestly, flicking through the options and trying to find the difference was difficult, as I could not distinguish what actually was changing. But we turn this down to medium anyway, as it nets us around 2 FPS on average. Lighting is next, and it changes how well it looks in the scenery. The higher options blend it in better, but it's nothing too drastic, so we turn this down to medium. This option gives us a big increase in performance, and nets us around 10 FPS more. The next option is for shadows, and seems to mostly affect the shadows on character models in this scene specifically. Lower settings reduce the amount of shadows displayed, and the quality of them. We drop this setting to medium, as there seems to be not much noticeable difference between the top 3 settings. Then we have ambient occlusion, which looks to also affect the shadows of the area, but mostly around the character and scenery. It gives the scene a darker look, and we leave it on high. We then have reflections. There seems to be only a real difference when you turn off this option. If lowered, it can improve stability, so we do drop it down to high. Lastly, we have post-process. This affects the final additions to the scenes, with the main focus of lighting and giving them bloom and some vibrance to stand out in the scene. There is only a few FPS in the difference, so we drop this down to high. So there you have it, those are the best settings for Psychonauts 2. As you can see here, it has gained us about 15 FPS, and we are now averaging about 60 FPS. A good amount for any game, especially on this chilled out adventure. A nice and smooth experience for you to enjoy some weird but great content in the game. That is all from the video. Please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.